All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and we are excited today to be able to share with you all this presentation to help those of you who are going to be applying to physical therapy school within the next few months to 3 years, about how to get excited and be prepared for your big day. So very excited to have you guys on here right now. Those of you who are going to be viewing live, I know we have people from all across the country, and that's always fantastic. We'll give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves a little bit just a bit later once we have more people trickle in. But excited to have you all here today and looking forward to being able to share a lot of this great content with you. I know we also have quite a few. We have some of our customers on here as well watching. Excited to have you guys here today as well. So those of you who may be new to Physical Therapy Application Coach, welcome. Those of you who have attended several of our webinars in the past, excited to have you here. And those of you who are brand new, let's welcome them in and show them what Physical Therapy Application Coach is all about. So we'll give people just another couple minutes to kind of trickle in and get some information. And guys, today is going to be so much better if you are engaged and dialed in. So as people are coming into the webinar room, go ahead and type in the chat box where you're viewing from. Right now, I'm in Florence, Arizona. It has been raining all week. We have been getting soaked. I'm sure most of these storms are coming from California. So those of you who are in California, please be safe. Please be careful. Hopefully you guys are doing okay with all of the flooding and the mudslides and all the crazy stuff that you all have on. But yeah, go ahead and type in the chat box once you come in. We've got a good amount of people in. So we'll just let you guys kind of warm up with the chat since you'll be using that to ask questions and different things like that. I do have a couple of polls that we'll be sending out so you guys can click and be engaged on that front as well. So, oh, come on, guys. I see you in the room. Nobody's going to put in the chat where they're from. Come on. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started as you guys are typing. So I want to just provide a quick introduction to myself. Those of you who may not know me or may be new to Physical Therapy Application Coach. My name is Sean Brewer. I am a licensed physical therapist and the founder of Physical Therapy Application Coach. I've been coaching applicants for over 10 years. When I was at NAU for my DPT degree, I was able to interview 17 applicants that were coming in and being considered for contention into NAU's program. Some of these numbers are a little outdated. I need to update them. Over 1,500 application essays edited and almost 460 mock interviews performed in the past few years. And then clients have been accepted to over half of the DPT programs across the country. And I personally was accepted into 5 of the 6 highly competitive programs I applied to and ultimately chose to go to NAU. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago when I was at Brigham Young University. I was the Pre-PT Club president there and really wanted to start refining for those who are members of our club, the best and most effective pathway to get into PT school, because that's what matters for pre-PT clubs. If you guys are a part of a pre-PT club, most important thing you can do is get into PT school. And that means you have a good club if your club helps you do that, right? So we went from about a 50% acceptance rate before I became president to an 85% acceptance rate. And there was still room for growth there. And I found out I just kind of had a knack for teaching people about how to use PTCAS, what things they can do to help themselves stand out. And I was able to help make a big difference in a lot of our club members' lives and now thousands of pre-PTs' lives. So super excited to be able to work with you guys. I work full-time as a licensed physical therapist at ATI Physical Therapy. They're a large outpatient orthopedic provider, and they've got a lot of exciting things coming down the pike, a lot of great partnerships with orthopedic groups and different things like that. So it's a great company to work for. They have a very, very user-friendly EMR, probably arguably the best EMR on that's out there right now. And I'm not just saying that in hyperbole. I've used several great EMR and saw fantastic benefits. They do a really good job. So most important part of this whole slide, though, is the little group on the left over there. That's my wonderful family. So that's my beautiful wife and my 3 daughters. Last night we just had a daddy-daughter dance for for Valentine's Day. So I got to take my two oldest. Our baby was a little too young. She's not crawling yet, so kind of hard for her to dance. But the two oldest daughters we took to a daddy-daughter dance and had a great time with them. And between my family, working full-time, and helping Pre-PT Nation, you guys, that's pretty much what keeps me busy 24/7, just running between that. And then I'm also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My faith is very important to me, and I'm also very engaged in my church community as well. So that's basically me in a nutshell. And these are the main things that get me up and out of the day: help my patients, help pre-PTs, most importantly, help my family, and then give my devotion to God. And that's what I do each and every day. So let's go back to the chat box now that some of you guys have entered. There we go. Mackenzie is from Northern Arizona. Mackenzie, you guys getting hammered with snow? Probably. Andres is from San Antonio. Grant is from Alabama. Colin is from PA. Gino, what's up, Gino, is from California. Alex is from Orlando. Dalton is from Ohio. Guys, this is awesome. We have someone from every corner of the U.S. right here, right now. That's fantastic. And you guys are in the right place. We're really excited to have you. We're going to continue to share and add value with you today. So again, keep your eyes on the chat, be dialed in, ask questions, different things like that. Okay. So I want to get to know all of you. We're going to do something a little different today. So I'm going to start some polls and they'll pop up. First one we're going to start is, when are you hoping to apply to PT school? So I'm going to go ahead and publish this poll. So that's why I can get to know you guys. It should just be able to click, and we'll take a look there and see. And if you don't know when you're applying, so the 24-25 cycle is this summer. The 25-26 is the summer after that, 26-27, etc. And if you're like, I have no idea, then please let me know, because we want to help you come away with that today. Okay. So just like I figured, most people are applying this upcoming summer. You guys are in the right place. Those of you who are applying next cycle, you are going to be even more ahead of the curve. So great job being prepared and being diligent. Okay. So if we show here, that's 75% applying this cycle, and then 25% applying next cycle. Okay, so let's do that. Now we're going to do another poll. Let's see here. Let's do biggest areas of concern with your pre-PT application. Okay, so got all kinds of things on there: GPA, GRE, observation hours, letters of recommendation, PTCAS essays, meaningful extracurriculars, or the whole thing. Okay. And I know this is hard. There may be some things that I didn't list on there, but I think this was the max amount of answers that I could put in. So GPA, GRE, all of it. Let me pull this up here. All of it, PTCAS and essays, letters of recommendation. So kind of a good mix. Nobody really has any concerns about observation hours, which is good. That's a good sign. That means you guys are either ahead of the curve, or you know what your programs are looking for, different things like that. So right now it's a tie for first between GRE, PTCAS, and essays, and all of it. So I guess it's a tie kind of across the board, if you consider all of it being each and every area. But awesome. Okay, and then let's do one more. Which best describes the feelings that you have. Okay. All right, so then this next one, which best describes how you are feeling about applying to PT school. Anxious and stressed is winning so far. We might just have 100%. It might just all be there. Okay, got some people who are excited. Still anxious and stressed is winning by a mile. Guys, anxiety is not good for your brain. Okay, it increases the more stressed out you are for long periods of time, that increases cortisol, which is going to lead to poor sleep. It's going to lead to weight gain, and also decreases creativity, shuts off the creative and productive areas of your brain, makes you more animalistic in your thought process, and more fight-flight response. So we want to help calm you down. Okay, so we'll end that poll there. Okay, so there's that one. So from the sounds of it, we've got most of our folks are applying right now to applying this upcoming cycle, which is great. We've got a few people who are coming online the cycle afterwards, which is great. And then kind of a mixed bag between being worried about the GRE, essays, and then all of the application. And then most of you are feeling anxious or stressed out, which these all line up, right? If you're applying this upcoming application cycle, it is entirely likely, it makes perfect sense that you are going to be stressed. This is a period of time when you need to be preparing and putting your best foot forward. So all of these answers are lining up with each other. It makes sense. And these are just the particulars. If we are going through this and there's anything that we didn't cover in terms of like things that you're really looking to get answered from today, go ahead and put it in the chat. But I'm really, really grateful for you guys sharing those answers with us. And then let's get back to the presentation. So now that I know you guys a little bit better, let's keep coming. For those of you who maybe signed up via YouTube or Instagram and you aren't already, or you just barely met us and you're not hooked into our community, just wanted to share this slide with you guys. Most of you are going to be aware of this, but we have on Instagram, we make 3 to 5 posts a week. Our handle is @PTAPCO, PTAPPCO, Physical Therapy Application Coach, shortened down. Then we also have our YouTube channel where we're posting a lot of this similar content, as well as recordings of our webinars and different things, our masterclasses. We have our free email newsletter, gets sent out 2 times a month. We have our application checkup and what if calculator, which I'll show you guys that in just a second. Top 50 recommended DPT programs list, cheapest DPT programs list. And we have regular Pre-PT live masterclasses like the one that you're in right now, and coaching products. And you can always email us at info@physicaltherapyapplicationcoach if you have questions or concerns. And by registering for this event today, you're already going to be automatically included in our email list. So you don't necessarily have to sign up there, but you'll automatically be included if you aren't already a member of that. So you'll be able to be on board and keep up with the pulse of what's going on in Pre-PT Nation. So that QR code kind of takes you to our Linktree link, so you can download other things like that you may be interested in if you haven't seen them or haven't accessed them yet. Okay, so what we have here is our application assessment and checkup and what if calculator. So this is actually an old version of it, but the new one has different categories, including the number of programs you're hoping to apply to and different things like that. And it goes through and it scores you based on the data that you put in. All you put in is the your numbers column, so that first column right there. And then it gives you a score or ranking based on how you're doing, okay? And as a result of that, this is not to tell you whether or not you should apply to PT school. It's just to give you information and to help you make an informed decision about what to work on in PT school, or as you get prepared for PT school and as you get ready to apply. So that's the main thing. This is not to tell you go, no go. It's to give you information about things you could work on to improve your application. And then they're also at the bottom of the calculator, there's a bunch of videos that walk you through the different categories and the different areas for that. So let's move on here. For the next few months and few years, the actions and the decisions that you make are going to make a tremendous impact on what happens with your future. Okay. As you initiate that first domino and you start making positive, productive action towards your goals, you are going to be significantly more successful if you start working sooner. Okay. I don't know how many of you have, I know we've got a few people in California, but I know that due to environmental regulations in California, you actually you have to take off sooner to use less fuel. And so your runway time is much shorter and it's a much more aggressive liftoff, which is totally fine. But it's in general, if you want a more smooth, relaxed, less stressful ride, the sooner you start putting effort and getting lift under your wings by doing the things you need to as a pre-PT, the easier your takeoff is going to be and the more successful you are going to be to get accepted into a DPT program. Okay. But just know that by being here today, you are making an active decision to jump on board and to be a part of something that is going to help you to know what to work on. And that's one of the most important things with being on our channel, following us on social media. It's not necessarily that every single post is going to apply to you directly, but it's always going to be keeping your mind on, okay, I need to do this to get ready for my application. I need to do this. I need to do this. And it's just to help you keep that top of mind. So that way, you know what's important in your life and you know what to focus on so you can move on to the next stage of your career. I also made a post just this last week talking about why right now is the best time ever to be a pre-PT and why it's so exciting to be a pre-PT right now. And there's many things that I envy about you guys and when you're applying. We're going to go over one of the main ones today, which has to do with the PTCAS program directory, which makes it so much easier for you to be able to review the different different programs to determine where you want to apply, where you should apply, how to use the data that's in this tool to help you determine how competitive you are as an applicant. That didn't exist when I was applying to PT school. We had PTCAS, which made things easier, but now you have PTCAS, and that continues to become more and more refined. You have the PTCAS program directory, which allows for greater transparency with applicants. You have so much access online to pre-PT coaches, to educational resources, to other PTs, so that way you can kind of decide what you want to do in the future with your career earlier than any of us ever had. And then on top of that, you have greater access to physical therapy than ever before and a greater demand for physical therapy in our healthcare system than ever before. So the future is very bright. I know there are people who are naysayers and complain about things. And yes, there are challenges in the profession. I'm not going to tell you that everything's all sunshine and rainbows, but there are a lot of things to be excited about and to look forward to as a pre-PT. You are getting into an exciting profession that is continuing to grow. We have this advanced aging population with the baby boomers getting older. And as a result of that, what are we going to do to help treat these patients? And physical therapy is going to be able to have a fantastic opportunity to step in and fill the gap and help a lot of these baby boomers who want to be active and want to be busy and doing things in their retirement to help them be healthy, to continue to live their goals, achieve what they want to achieve, and live fulfilling lives. So while, yes, your actions make a big difference about where you're going to be in the future, I also just want you to be excited about getting into this profession at this time and making the decision to become a physical therapist. Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to talk about why program selection is the new secret sauce for pre-PTs to get into PT school. Then we're going to help you determine where you should apply and what you should be looking for, and then what pre-PTs can do to boost their application, what actually makes a difference, a PTCAS intro, and then we're going to share an exclusive limited time coaching offer to work with us here at PTAPCO. And I will say we've revitalized our coaching offerings. You now have access to our most affordable consultation coaching package, which we'll talk about today, that we've ever had, and adds a ton of value. We've refined it over the years, and now we feel like we've got it at a really good spot where we can offer the most value at a competitive price point that is a major value to you guys. Okay, so we'll talk about that at the end. All right, so if we look at program selection, we have two different schools of thought. Old school is this guy in the suit and tie just throwing a dart at a dartboard. Okay, what that alludes to is probably more my generation of pre-PTs. And still, there's a large amount of pre-PTs who do this. We know this because of the questions that we get asked on social media. We know this because of the clients that we work with and the questions that they ask us. But essentially, the dartboard is you need to do pre-PT things, right? So you need to do well in school. You need to potentially take the GRE. You got to get some observation hours. You need letters of recommendation. You want to try to find these other areas, other extracurriculars that you can add on to your resume to make you look competitive and stand out. We know we need to do the pre-PT things, but we don't know specifically what things to do or where we stand with the things that we've already done. And that is where program selection is so important, because if you're just throwing darts at a dartboard, you are likely just waiting until right before you apply to start deciding which programs you really want to apply to. Some of you may be like, yeah, I know I want to apply to this school, this state school, or this other state school, but you haven't looked in depth at what they require. Some of you may have, and if you have, that's great. But for those of you who haven't, I'm going to challenge you to be like the second picture, okay? You want to be a sniper. You want to be targeted. And you see how this is off in the distance? The dartboard's closer, right? The guy who's throwing at the dartboard, it's much closer to him. So he is choosing to make a program selection right at the very end and almost doing it blindly, okay? And not knowing if he is actually or she is actually a good fit for that program. Versus the sniper picture, they have a long distance ahead of them and they're using their scope to help them zoom in and identify, okay, what does this target look like? What do I need to do to be successful to make sure that I can hit this target, which for all of us is talking about hitting the target of getting accepted into a DPT program, okay? So program selection is so important, and we're going to take you through a little preview of the PTCAS program directory to give you a sample of how powerful this tool is and why, if you haven't already used it, why you absolutely should use this right after you get off of this masterclass, okay? So PTCAS openly shares that most applicants apply on average to 5 to 6 programs on average, okay? Now, that number is kind of skewed because there are a lot of people who apply to only 1 or 2 programs, and there's also a lot of people who apply to a ton of programs, like more than 15, which is totally unnecessary. Please do not do that. It has never been easier than ever before to start researching DPT programs than it is right now because of the PTCAS program comparison tool, which continues to get more sophisticated, to have more data on it, allow for greater transparency. It's fantastic. It's a tool that we use all the time. We've used it to help us with a lot of our free resources that we have, and it's just being able to navigate it and to use it to evaluate your own personal situation. So identifying programs that you hope to apply to earlier, the sooner you can do that, it will help you know what statistics you should be shooting for, give you more time to get to know the program and how they evaluate their applicants, and then help you choose the most affordable program to better position yourself financially coming out of PT school, okay? A lot of times our friends that do the blind dart throwing, they often are blindsided, no pun intended, by their student loans because they didn't know which programs they were applying to and they didn't look at the financial implications of applying to those programs, okay? I want you to go in with your eyes completely wide open so that way you can make the best and most informed decision that will help you be successful, okay? All right, so this is the PTCAS program comparison tool. I have pulled a lot of different programs, and ironically, a lot of them are from the states that y'all are in. So this is awesome, okay, or close by. So we've got a Cal State Long Beach, Ohio State, Rutgers, Texas Tech, and University of Florida, okay? So these are programs that we're going to take a look at. Let's just say I'm an applicant and I'm like, you know what? I like these places. I'd be happy to go there. And I like these schools. I know about them. I'd be okay to live in these states. Let's say I pull this up on the PTCAS program comparison tool, and then I'm going to be able to scroll down and look at a bunch of awesome data. Okay, so let's talk about which program fits your GPA and observation hour situation, okay? So if we look at this, again, these pages scroll on for quite some time, so there's a lot of information on there. These are just some snippets, some screenshots I took of just a few of these areas. So one that I also forgot to put on this list was the number of references that are required by that program. You think that'd be good to know well ahead of time how many references are required and what category those references are from? Like if they need to be from PTs, a professor, whoever, right? Then PT observation hours requirements. You can see that they all have a slightly different number of requirement. And then they also have the number of hours varies as well. And there's a requirement versus the average accepted is different for observation hours. So even though that might be like the bare minimum to be able to apply so that way your application doesn't get thrown out, that may not mean that's what the average accepted number of observation hours is. Most schools don't publish that though, just because there is such a wide variety, okay? And then there's also a deadline for the completion of PT hours. This is from last application cycle, so please don't freak out. This is from the previous application cycle. These numbers will all get updated when you are applying. They'll likely be updated probably in May before the application cycle opens, but that doesn't mean that most of these numbers don't change too much, okay? And it's the most recent data that you have available to you. So while these numbers reflect from for the 23 to 24 application cycle, it's totally fine to use them as a baseline to measure where you're at. Okay. And then you have the minimum GPA, the average GPA, and then minimum prereq, and then the average prereq GPA. Okay. So this information here is how you are going to be able to help you decide, okay, where am I in comparison to these average accepted students? And what do I need to do to overcome a gap if it's too big, right? I've got a question here. Andre says, can I make a PTCAS account even though I will be applying in a year? Yes, you can, Andres. You absolutely can. So I have a PTCAS account, a dummy account that I keep open all the time. And I'll put stuff in there just to kind of test for different applicants. But you absolutely can. And we'll talk about how you can actually put information in early into PTCAS. So that way, and that information will pull forward. If you have more questions about that, we have a YouTube video that walks you through it, what information gets pulled forward, but we'll talk about it today. Okay. And then we got another question here from Dalton. How do you find a comparison tool? Do you have to add the programs to a list and compare it that way? So Dalton, you can literally just Google PTCAS program comparison tool, and it's the first link that pops up. And then once you do that, you will just have to search the programs. You'll click them so they get added to your compare list. Because it doesn't automatically know what schools you want to compare. So you can go based on state. You can go based on certain requirements for the application. It's a very handy tool. There's a lot of ways that you can filter it out. You can filter based on deadlines, different things like that. So if you just Google it, you can go and check it out. And it's extremely powerful, extremely helpful. And it can let you know where you stand. Okay. All right, let's move on here. Good question though, guys. All right, so this is just an example I wanted to give you. Let's say that right now I am a pre-PT and my prerequisite GPA is a 3.15. At my first couple semesters, I took anatomy and physiology. I did not do very well, okay? And in fact, my C- grade actually disqualifies me from most applications. So I know I need to retake that class. But let's just say I retake 2 classes, okay? And if I retake those 2 classes, what happens to my prerequisite GPA? The reason this is an item of question for a lot of applicants is your prerequisite GPA oftentimes is factored in only the highest grades of a course. So if you retake a class, only the highest grade will get factored in. Not all DPT programs do that. Some programs do the average of all of your credits, okay? If they do that, then it's going to change your numbers a little bit. And you can still use this. You can just use a GPA calculator online, and that will help you to be able to access and to see what your prerequisite GPA is. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, that you go calculate where your current prerequisite GPA is right now, just so you know where you're at. You should know these numbers off the top of your head, and we'll talk more about GPA in just a bit. But let's just say I'm getting ready to apply for the 2024-2025 application cycle. I've only got a few months until the application opens, and I'm wondering, okay, maybe if I retake a couple classes, I might be able to improve my chances of getting in. And I definitely need to retake that anatomy class. But let's say I retake anatomy and physiology over the summer. I don't even have to get an A. It's just a B+ and an A-, and my prereq GPA goes from a 3.14 or 3.15 to a 3.45. All of a sudden, I'm much more competitive than I was. And I just retook 2 classes. Okay. So we don't need to make this into rocket science. We just need to look at what do the numbers tell us based on the students that are getting accepted, and what do the numbers tell me about where I currently sit as an applicant. Another question here from Grant. Do DPT programs weigh grades on a plus and minus system? So depends. There is a Grant, you're going to have a PTCAS is going to calculate your GPA differently than your university. There's a lot more detail that we could go into about this, but PTCAS essentially is trying to normalize GPA, which you just can't. With as many universities as there are, you just can't quite weight them all the same. It would be a good question to reach out to your programs of interest and ask them how they would calculate it versus a plus or minus. If it's just an A or an A- all or nothing. It is based on a program by program basis. So I can't give you a blanket answer. My best answer, and what will always be the best answer, is to contact the programs that you're interested in applying to and ask them specifically if you are concerned. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. But thank you for that question. Okay, so here's another thing. I know this slide's kind of small, right? But what do you want your student loan situation to look like? I wanted to include the state here. So this is my school in California. If I'm applying as an out-of-state resident, it's almost $110,000. If I am going to Ohio State, it's almost $160,000. In going to Rutgers in New Jersey, $150,000. Texas, out of state, $89,000. That's more palatable. Florida, almost $100,000. Okay. If you're in state, you can go and you can compare. I tell most applicants, virtually every state in the United States has a DPT program. Wyoming and Alaska do not. Every other state and even Puerto Rico has one. Washington, D.C. has multiple, right? They all have DPT programs. You absolutely should start where you live and use those as your baseline. Now, if you live back east or in California, chances are there are cheaper DPT programs, even if you are applying out of state. And this includes tuition and cost of living. Because remember, unless you're going to be living with family and saving on groceries and rent, chances are if you're going to be funding your cost of living through student loans, you want to make those as cheap as possible as well. Okay, so just things to look at. And then some other things that are on here, class size, and then the percent of in-state versus out-of-state applicants accepted. It's a good thing to know. It can help you determine how competitive you are at applying to that program. If a program has a really large class size and they mostly accept in-state students and you're an in-state applicant, chances are your chances are better at getting into that program versus an out-of-state program. Like if I applied to the Long Beach, the Cal State Long Beach, they take 90% in-state. Okay, so I have 10% of the class is out-of-state, and you just have to look at your numbers from that. And it's just a math game at that point to determine your odds. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a quick drink. Anyone have any questions about the PTCAS program comparison tool? I hope you see just like a quick little sample of how awesome it is, because I really do love it. I don't love everything that PTCAS does, but they really knocked it out of the park with that. And I really appreciate them being more honest and transparent with pre-PTs, because it needs to be done so you guys know what you're getting yourselves into. Okay, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, but I'm not seeing any come in right now. So these are your action items for program selection, which I know this may seem like it's not as important, but it is, because you need to know what your target is. So you're going to create a working list of 10 to 15 programs of interest. You want to look at programs that are inexpensive, low cost of tuition, low cost of living in the city where the program is located. You can use cost of living indexes to determine those different criteria as well. You also want to have a program that has a high first-time pass rate on the licensure examination. High for us is greater than a 90%. Okay. Anything lower than that, I'm a little bit concerned about that program and how high my likelihood is of passing the boards at that program. Now, your responsibility in PT school is you have to learn how to learn for the boards. First and foremost, you need to learn so you can be a good provider. But you aren't going to be able to treat patients if you don't pass the boards. Okay, that's just the way it goes. So, at least not under the jurisdiction of the state board, and you don't want to get into all the legal mumbo jumbo with that. That's been kind of spinning around the internet as well. It's like, oh well, I don't need a physical therapy license to be a physical therapist. It's like, well, that just seems dicey to me and will dilute the profession, in my opinion. I think it's good that we have a licensing body that helps us to kind of standardize things. So then what you're going to do is, if they have a high first-time pass rate, then that lets us know you have a high likelihood of passing the first time, and then you're going to be able to get your job sooner and start working. Do not look at ultimate pass rate. Ultimate pass rate is a garbage statistic. No one should publish it. It should only be first-time pass rates. Ultimate pass rate is how many of our students eventually pass the boards, which you can take it up to 6 times. After the 6th time, you can't be a PT anymore. It's super sad. It's happened to no one that I've known personally, but I've heard of a couple people. And it's just so sad to think that they go through school and they can't pass the test. And I don't understand it, because it's a very doable test. If you pay attention at all in school and you use the books and you study, you'll be just fine. Okay. So then you're going to compare your statistics and with any of the provided accepted class statistics, and that's going to let you know how you rank with those programs. And then you're going to look at the values and interests. Most people do this backwards. Most people say, oh, I like this school because it participates in this, and they do humanitarian projects and all that stuff. That's great. That's all fine and dandy. But the majority of your life is going to be impacted by 2 things from your PT school experience. Do you pass the boards early and the first time? And how much debt do you have when you come out of school? Those 2 things are going to affect the majority of your life after you graduate PT school. If you go on some cool humanitarian trips, great, awesome. But it's only going to affect you for a short period of time. And I'm not saying those things aren't valuable. They absolutely are. But I'm just looking at it from a perspective of your long-term, your career, your outlook on life. It's going to be affected more so by cost of the program, how much student loan debt you have, and if you pass the boards. Because that's the only reason you're really going to PT school, is to pass the licensure. Okay? Then you've got the PTCAS program comparison tool. Use it. I hope that by showing you guys this, you are going to dig in and start using it. Okay? Contact programs after doing thorough research to see how your portfolio aligned with their profile. And then eventually you're going to narrow your list of programs down to 5 to 9 that you'll actually apply to. With these 5 to 9 programs, you should have kind of a graded response, or a graded competition gradient, where you have very competitive programs that are going to be more challenging to get into. We call these like your reach or your dream schools. And then you have less competitive programs where your statistics are much closer to those. Maybe they have a higher chance of you getting accepted into that program based on in or out of state statistics, the size of the class, different things like that. Okay. And then you narrowed those down so that way you've got your dream schools, your middle of the road schools, and then your backup schools. And all of these should be places that you want to go. You should not apply to a PT school if you do not want to go there. Plain and simple. Okay. All right. Let's move on to GPA. So you need to know the following to be a successful pre-PT. Your cumulative GPA, which is pretty easy. You can go look that up on any of your unofficial transcript that you can pull up on your student portal. That's pretty easy. All universities have that. You can pull up readily. Your prerequisite GPA, which is anatomy, physiology, chem, physics, bio, stats, and general psychology. Okay. That makes up your core prerequisites. Every school has a slightly different offering of what their prerequisite requirements are. Exercise physiology is very common. Abnormal psychology is very common. Different things like that. You may have other biology classes or medical terminology. Those things are common. Okay. So you should look those up to determine what your exact prereq GPA is for the programs that you want to apply to once you know for sure that that's a school you want to go to. But in general, if you know the basic core prereq GPA, you'll be just fine. Then you've got your last 60 credit hour GPA, which is basically the last 2 years of credits that you've earned. We want to see that your GPA has roughly gone like this, and you've learned how to improve, and we see an upward trajectory in your ability to study and be a student. Most people struggle their freshman and part of their sophomore year in college. Then once you kind of figure out how to study and how to be responsible and organize yourself and everything like that, things usually even out. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that it gives you an excuse to not do well early. If you can do well early in college, those of you who are viewing who are earlier on, do as well as you can as early as you can. It bothers me when I see, excuse me, let me just 1 second. Sorry about that. It bothers me when I see pre-PT coaches out there that are telling people that your GPA does not matter when you get into PT school. It absolutely matters. Please do not trick yourself, okay? Does that mean that you have to have a perfect GPA to get accepted into PT school? No, absolutely not. We've had an applicant with a 2.45 GPA get accepted into multiple DPT programs. But you better believe that we were being super snipers. Like we were being very targeted with determining, okay, these are the programs that you're going to have the best chance of getting accepted into. Okay. And we did tons of research, tons of different things to help that applicant out. So your GPA is not the only thing that matters in your application, but it does matter a lot. And I'll say for probably the vast majority, all DPT programs, I would say at least 90%. Your GPA and how well you do in your GPA makes up approximately 50% or greater of how they evaluate you as a student. And the reason that is because your GPA is the largest data point that they have on you about how well you do in school. It's not rocket science. If you are going to more school, we want to see how you did with your other schooling as in your undergrad, right? So you absolutely just do as well as you can. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that if you don't have a great GPA, you can't get into PT school. I've told you, we work with applicants who have GPA struggles all the time, and we do everything we can to put them in the best position possible to help them get accepted into PT school. And it happens year after year, time and time again. Okay. So then you can use a GPA calculator to calculate your, especially your prereq GPA. And then you're going to identify any prereqs that you need to retake so you can boost your numbers. And then from there, you're going to be able to determine, okay, this is the timeline for when I need to apply. This is the deadline for this program. Does this program participate in enrolling admissions? Am I going to be able to have this class completed before those dates? So that way this grade will actually be factored in to my application. These are all things that you want to consider and things that we help applicants out with our coaching all the time. Okay. GRE. I know this is a lot, but we're going to go through this. Okay. So we're going to take our action items for the GRE. If you are nervous about the GRE, I want you to stop freaking out and I want you to take a practice test without studying, which I know sounds crazy. But the reason that you do that is that how you do on that practice test is going to mostly give you information. It's not going to determine whether or not you're going to do well on the GRE. Maybe you do better than you think you would without studying. And then that lets you know, okay, maybe I don't need to study as much. Okay. How you score on that practice test lets you know based on reality, not perspective, perceived knowledge, but based on reality, where are you at with your content understanding of the GRE and how are you doing with taking that test? Now, we've listed a bunch of different practice tests that you can take. These are all free ones that are online. You got Power Prep 2, ETS paper practice tests, the Manhattan Prep, Kaplan Prep, and GRE Review. These are all free practice tests that are available for you that you can take, and you can use them to diagnose what areas of weakness you have. And then you're going to study those areas of weakness after you complete the test. So the most important part after the test is not your score. The most important part after you take that practice test is to review where you didn't do so well and figure out what you need to study so you can do better the next time. And then you study and address those areas and you move on, right? And after you do that several times, we usually recommend most applicants take at least 4 to 6 practice tests before their big day. Every test, you're going to get better and better and better. And you're going to have more exposure to the content that you need to know. And that's only going to help you be in a better position. Okay? So the GRE is not as scary as we make it out to be. Most people just have no clue. How do I study for this? When should I take it? When should I start studying? Different things like that. And I'd say in general, most applicants are going to take it in May or June after they finish their semester before they apply. You can take it. GRE scores are good for up to 5 years. So you can take it anytime within that 5-year window of when you're going to apply, so that way your score is still good. But most applicants are going to take it after they finish their spring semester before they apply. You can also see if you have any peers, family members, friends that have recently taken the GRE and have leftover study materials that you can use. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, okay? Use free stuff as much as you can. You don't need to spend a ton of money on expensive prep programs. They are mostly a scam, in my opinion. And the data that they publish that says they do that much better, I would argue it's kind of suspect, and obviously there's a conflict of interest on that data. right? To me, this system is what works. This is what you're going to do for your boards exam. Is you're going to take a practice test, study where you need help, get better at that, take another practice test, and lather, rinse, repeat. And that's just how we as humans learn. We do something, we make mistakes, we figure out what to do better, and then we do it again. And we get better, and we become more resilient. Okay? All right, that's the GRE. Observation hours. I'll go through this quickly because nobody really had any observation hours inquiries. But there are pre-PT coaches who are out there saying, and I want to dispel this myth, that observation hours don't matter. They don't help your application. Baloney. It's such crap. Do not believe this, okay? Observation hours boost your application in the following ways. I wrote them down because there's a bunch of them. Determining if you truly want to be in this profession. It would be heartbreaking for you to figure out your second year into PT school, you don't actually want to be a PT. Because now you're in too deep and you have to make a decision. And that decision could cost you a ton of money and time and opportunities, okay? So determine if you really want to do this, if you could see yourself doing this day in and day out for an extended period of time as a part of your career. Helping you understand the scope of physical therapy, patient interaction stories, helps you collect and gather patient interaction stories for essays and interviews, potential job opportunities, and networking with PTs to build relationships for references or letters of recommendation. Okay. So observation hours absolutely do matter. Maybe they don't matter in the sense of the actual quantitative number component of your application, but my gosh, they matter so much when it comes to your application as a whole and these intangible things that they add to it. So observation hours, action items. If you have observation hours, have them logged and have them organized before PTCAS opens. And reach out to the PTs that have supervised you and make sure that they remember you and are willing to verify your hours within the next few months if you're applying this summer. You should research how many hours you need to get for the programs that you need to apply to. That means using the PTCAS program comparison tool. That means contacting the programs, different things like that. And then make a game plan to obtain as many hours and as many settings as you can between now and when you apply. The sooner you get started, the better experiences you will have and the better things will be for you. Okay. Diversity of hours is more important than the quantity of hours. And when I say that, this is an example I'll give you here. So let's say you have an applicant who has 1,000 hours of outpatient orthopedics, which is pretty common if you work as a tech or an aide, versus someone who has 300 hours, 200 outpatient orthopedic, 50 inpatient, 25 pediatrics, and 25 home health. Which applicant, A or B, is going to be considered more well-rounded? Applicant B, right? Because they have a broader understanding of the full scope of physical therapy. Maybe the other applicant has more time, more hours in it, but chances are they haven't seen what the full scope of PT looks like from a variety of different settings. So having diversity of settings is more important. Inpatient versus outpatient, pediatrics, neurological, home health. There's all kinds of different things that you could look at. Even in different outpatient settings, you could have more of a performance-based outpatient setting. You could have more of a general regular outpatient orthopedic for like postoperative patients, geriatrics, fall prevention. You could have a vestibular emphasis, different things like that. Pelvic floor, women's health, different things. There's a lot of different variations. So get out there and have diversity of hours so you can have a better understanding of if this is what you want to do, what you would want to do, what you could see yourself doing in the future, and to help you really decide if this is what you want to be a part of and make those relationships with patients and PTs so you have a very well-rounded application when the time comes to actually apply. Okay, references and letters of recommendation. Okay, hang in there. I know it kind of feels like we're drinking from a fire hose. So you should identify and contact your potential references if you haven't already. This is our general recommendation. So that way you kind of hit all of your bases for different PT schools. You should shoot for having 2 references from licensed physical therapists. You can also have physical therapist assistants depending on what that program's requirements are for your references. Sometimes those count too. 1 from a science professor, 1 from a supervisor, and 1 from the next best available person. Okay. I would make a list. These are all the PTs I know. These are all my science professors I know. These are all my supervisors from outside of physical therapy. And then this is the next best available. And I would rank them literally on how strong of a letter they would write you. When you are asking your references to be a reference for you, you should ask them, what do I need to do to receive a strong letter of recommendation from you? And the difference is, if you ask this question, you establish a professional relationship from the get-go. They may have certain expectations for people that they write letters of recommendation to that you don't know about. And if you just send them a letter of recommendation request and they say, well, we didn't talk about this, I'm not going to write them a strong letter, then you just shot yourself in the foot. So make sure, control all the controllables that you can. Ask them, what do I need to do to get a strong letter of recommendation? And then comply with whatever they're asking you to do. And then update your resume and share them with your reference. Share an updated copy of your resume with your reference. If you haven't updated your resume in a while, probably a good time to revisit it, get it revamped, make sure it's nice and concise. We've posted online a lot about having your resume at this stage of your life and your career is likely only going to be one page. Okay, keep it snappy, keep it concise, focus on the highlights, things that are relevant to physical therapy school. And then you can also put together something that we call a brag sheet. So a brag sheet is kind of an extension of your resume, but it's more specific to that particular setting. So if you work as an aide, you're going to write down all of the times that you went above and beyond, or particular tasks or assignments that maybe you were given. Maybe you're the lead tech and you've helped orchestrate meetings with other techs and you help with scheduling and whatever, all those different things, right? Just having those lists ready to go, that helps you to be in a much better position to share those things with your reference. And then guess what? That's going to jog their memory. And the things that you share with them, they are very likely to include. As long as they are a fan of yours, they're going to be like, oh, wow, you basically helped me write this reference, this letter of recommendation. And I'm going to include some of the things that you share with me as examples, objective examples of what you've done to make a positive impact in the setting that we work together in. I do have a YouTube series. It's one of our most popular videos right now on the best way to submit your references, because the location for your reference requests has changed. It's now located in the program materials section, and there is some nuance to it. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds. It's beyond the scope of this masterclass. But when the time comes to apply, if you are confused at all about how to upload your references, please watch my YouTube series. It'll make things easier for you and for the people completing your references. I show you what it's like for a student sending a reference, and I show you what it's like for someone who's receiving it on the other end and what they're filling out. It's also helpful if you need to, you can send it to your references, and then they can reuse your the reference that they upload, so that way you don't have to send them a bunch of different invitations. Okay? All right, some other proven ways that you can stand out as a pre-PT is to show that you know how to manage your time well. So this includes pre-PT club and other leadership opportunities, being a research assistant, community outreach and involvement, student government, work experience. Show them that through your life experience, you have personal development, you have networking because you've been able to develop relationships with other people in these settings, which helps you get stronger letters of recommendation, things like that, and your references. Okay? So those are proven ways to stand out. I know that's a quick slide, but these are things that are valuable to spend your time on. All right, when can or should you apply? So this is an important thing to consider because there's a lot of applicants who apply at the wrong time, and that leads to them not being successful in their application. And that's just heartbreaking for me, okay? So in order to start a DPT program, assuming that you've been accepted, is you must have all your prerequisites completed and your bachelor's degree earned before you can start PT school. So the earliest that you can apply is the summer between your junior and senior year, assuming that you're going to meet the previous bullet point, assuming that you're going to have everything completed. You can have some planned or in progress prerequisites. I would only shoot to have like 2 or 3 by the time you apply. But you need to check with your programs of interest that you are going to meet all the necessary requirements by the timeline that is necessary for you to get into that program. And no, gap years do not negatively impact your application. but I would not just take one just to take one. If you're going to take a gap year, there needs to be a purpose behind it. It is frustrating for me to watch pre-PTs who are like, well, I just took a gap year because I was tired of undergrad. And then life happens. Maybe they meet a significant other, which I'm totally fine with that, but that distracts them from their plans, and life happens, right? The longer you live life, the more life happens. So if your goal is to become a physical therapist, you should get on that path as soon as possible. Even if you are a little bit fatigued, maybe take a couple weeks off, rest, relax, adjust your schedule a little bit if you need to, and then you can start your DPT program. It's not like you have to be burning the candle at both ends in order to be successful. But I just don't understand why people take gap years unless there's a purpose. If you're like, you know what, I didn't decide until later that I wanted to become a physical therapist. I need to take some more prereqs. I need to get some observation hours. I haven't taken the GRE yet. Totally fine. I understand. You're being smart and you're pacing yourself with your application. Gap years are not bad if there's a reason why you're taking them. That's my piece on that. Okay, PTCAS, which most of you now should have a little bit of an overview into PTCAS. PTCAS is it's an acronym that stands for the Physical Therapist Centralized Application Service. So this allows you to submit the same application to multiple DPT programs that you're applying to. The vast majority, I think it's 96%, maybe even more than that. I had to go back and double check. It's a very high percentage of DPT programs across the country participate in PTCAS. Okay. Now, the number of programs that don't, you can look those up on the PTCAS program directory, and it lists all the programs that don't participate in PTCAS. So all of that information is available to you using the PTCAS program directory. If you are like, hey, I'm looking for this program, but they're not showing up on PTCAS, it may be because they don't participate in PTCAS. But this is a picture of the dashboard. When you log in, you have the personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials page. All of these different sections have different areas that you're going to fill out. Now, the cool thing is you can life hack PTCAS. So like I mentioned, those of you who asked, you are able to log into PTCAS early, quote unquote, and you can fill out a lot of your application. And that includes all the sections in personal information, all the sections in academic history, and all the sections except for essays in supporting information. Okay. And then those are going to be pulled forward for you. And when the application cycle starts over, so let's say that you entered all this information tomorrow. So February 11th, you enter all of this information. PTCAS goes through and wipes its database in May. Okay, wipes its database. What happens though is if you didn't submit an application and you have data that's sitting in your portal, then what it's going to do is when the new application cycle starts up in June, you're going to log in again when the new application cycle opens, and there's going to be a window that pops up that asks you if you want to pull forward information from all of these areas that I just listed. And again, there's a YouTube video. It's a screen recording of the PTCAS, of me logging into my PTCAS account at this time of the year, when the application cycle starts over, and asking me if I want to pull information forward. And it lists all of the different areas. So this isn't me just blowing smoke. This is absolutely from PTCAS directly. Okay. So this is not a must do. This is for the eager beavers that are super type A, who want to get ahead of the curve. I would rather you spend time on the stuff we talked about on the previous slides than logging into PTCAS early. Okay. But you can do it. You can do it. There are applicants that they're just really ahead of things, and this is going to help them. And all the programs that they apply to are rolling admission, so they want to get their application submitted as quickly as possible. Okay. So I know today there were some of you who had questions about application essays. The good news is you're going to be looped into our email newsletter, and in June, we are going to be hosting our PTCAS essay webinar. This is our biggest event of the year. We have a couple of them, but the first one is the most important because that's when we get most of our clients signing up and start working with us and getting their essays done as quickly as possible. But I'm going to go through a quick summary of kind of some takeaways, okay? Program selection. You want to have 10 to 15 schools And you can apply to 5 or 6 to 9 of them is what you're actually going to apply to. GPA, know your numbers, boost your prereq and your last 60 credit hour GPA as much as you can between now and when you apply. GRE, take practice tests, let data drive your decisions. And then observation hours, diversity over quantity of hours, and try to get as many hours as you can, especially if you have few observation hours right now. References, we recommend that you shoot for 5 and you go and you make your list. You have 2 from physical therapists, 1 from a professor, 1 from a non-PT related person, and 1 from the next best available, whatever category they come from. Then you have extracurriculars, leadership, work, research, service experiences, and then PTCAS. You can put in personal information, academic history, supporting information, but you're going to save program materials and essays for later. All right, here we are again, drinking from a fire hose. You guys did a great job. We're right at an hour. We're just about done. I want to talk to you guys about this coaching offer because some of you may be feeling a little overwhelmed with everything that we've shared today. And you may feel like you don't know how to organize all these different tasks that are on your plate. So while this information is good, action and accountability are what actually lead to results and lead to change. So having someone give you a personalized direction and to hold you accountable is the number one way to maximize your chances of acceptance into a DPT program. Wouldn't it be helpful if you had 5 program selection resources to help you streamline your application process? The best free GRE prep material all in one document, a template to help you ask your references for strong letters of recommendation, the most efficient and effective PTCAS checklist in the pre-PT community, and 1 30-minute one-on-one coaching session with me to help address your questions and give you the best information to help you apply successfully. This one-on-one coaching helps you get a plan that is personalized, focused, gives you direction, and deliberate action for you. It helps you to have confidence, control, accountability, and peace of mind about these next few months to few years. And this coaching offer is all about investing in yourself and in your future, learning how to focus on you and what you need to do to be the best applicant without comparing yourself to others, and increasing your likelihood of acceptance significantly. It's getting clarity and direction on how to have PT, DPT next to your last name as soon as possible. So these are our new prices here for our coaching offer. This is if you went and you looked up online and you wanted to buy this coaching product today, that's how much it would cost you. But guess what? Because you came to this webinar, you're going to get 20% off. These are our best offers we've ever had on this, guys. I'm not just saying that in hyperbole. We changed it because we found that most applicants with just one coaching call were able to significantly have their chances of getting their plan and executing better than those who had 2. And there are quite a few who use both, but we wanted to give you guys the option. Get your plan and then run with it. And then if you want to sign up for additional coaching, we can talk about that. And I forgot to add this in there. If you are applying or if you want to use our additional coaching services, if you're an existing customer, you get 30% off. 30% off our essay coaching, interview coaching, and additional coaching sessions. So it's a tremendous value. We're with you from now until the end of the line, right? We will be with you all the way through your application. And let me go ahead and put this offer up real quick. This offer lasts until February 12th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can get it for a one-time purchase price of $84, or you even have monthly payments for $42. And again, this promotion offer only lasts until February 12th. There's only 10 spots available. There is a 14-day money-back guarantee if for whatever reason you aren't satisfied. So you can get signed up today, start working with us, and get your application in order so you can get the results that you are looking for, which is acceptance into multiple DPT programs. And so that way you can have options where you want to go to have the best financial future and to help you have the best opportunity to have a successful career. So I'm going to leave this offer up. Again, there's only 10 spots available, and it only lasts for 48 hours. So you're going to want to take advantage of this as much as possible. So let's, if you have questions, I'm going to stick around for the next little bit. I hope that I'm able to work with many, if not all of you in the future. And I'm really excited to be able to work with you on this upcoming application cycle. It's going to be a fantastic time. And please, if you have questions, I'm here. Go ahead, type them in the chat box. I'd love to answer any questions or concerns you may have. And if we go silent for a bit, I'll assume I've answered everything you've ever wanted to know. Nobody. I think the other thing to look at, guys, when you have an application plan, it's giving you the peace of mind that when you hear other people talking about what they're doing to apply to PT school, you don't have to worry about that. That was one of the biggest things that happened when, all your friends in Pre-PT Club are talking, and it's great to have those peers and those mentors to motivate you. But my biggest thing was always, I want to know what I need to do, and I don't want to have to worry about other people. Okay, here we go. Here we got a couple. Colin, do smaller schools have better acceptance rates than larger schools? So Colin, that question has some qualifiers to it. What do you mean by smaller schools? As in, like, they're not as popular or well known? Or is it that they have a smaller class size? Because schools that are harder to get into have very high acceptance statistics, and they have very small class sizes. And then I would add on top of that if you're an in versus out of state applicant. So those are all things that you should consider. But I would say in general, smaller, more rural schools are less expensive and less competitive because more people want to go to schools that are in larger metropolitan areas. I just look at it like if you can go to a lot of the programs that are on our cheapest DPT program list and our top 50 schools list, kind of like the actual US News and World Report, like what it actually should be instead of just a beauty contest for the most expensive DPT programs. A lot of them are in the Midwest, they're in the South, and they are in the Mountain West, right? The coasts are going to be more expensive. So the middle of the country is cheaper. The coasts are more expensive. And depending on the places that you go to or the programs you apply to, they may be more or less competitive depending on those names. Using a name just as the criteria for whether or not you're going to apply to a school isn't a great thing for me. Hopefully you've learned how to use some of the tools that we gave you today, Colin, that'll help you to be more successful. Andres, let's see here. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone that is doing PT without having a science background? Andres, my recommendation to you would be use that as an asset for your application. So you obviously are going to have to take the prerequisite classes, okay? But most of my classmates that I had in PT school who came from a different background than like your traditional exercise science or kinesiology, they just had a different way of thinking and looking at the world. And that was an advantage for them. They added a different perspective. So instead of looking at yourself like you're different than other applicants, look at what your life experience has given you. And if you don't have a straight science background, if you've taken all the prerequisite classes that you need to get in, to apply to a PT school, then you can just trust that you've done the same work that other people have to get to that point. Now, does it mean that you can still familiarize yourself with things? Absolutely. But know that when you go into PT school, you're going to learn the same things as other people who have the more heavily science backgrounds. If you have time and availability in your schedule, I think it's a good idea before you go into PT school to join or to participate in upper level science classes that are going to push you and help you learn how to think and reason. So these could be like upper level applied anatomy classes, upper level biomechanics classes, upper level neurology or neuroscience classes. that would be those would be some of my recommendations. That if you have the bandwidth in your schedule, I would take some of those upper level science classes if you've met the prerequisites to be able to take them, and then just trust that what you need to do to apply to PT school is going to put you in a position to be successful. And as long as you go into it with an open mind, your experience and your opportunities that you've had as an individual without a science background are going to make you and help you be successful. Okay. All right, Grant. What summer jobs do you recommend us getting summer after junior year to make money and to strengthen our resume? It's a great question, Grant. So in general, PT tech jobs don't make you a ton of money. They're like a solid job, and it also helps that you get paid to get observation hours. That definitely helps. Don't get me wrong. But when you are looking at, I would just go in whatever industry you can to make as much money as possible between when you are getting ready to apply to physical therapy school and when you actually apply. Now, the caveat to that is you have to make sure that you're leaving enough time for your application. But I've had friends and other people who've participated in like summer sales jobs, different things like that, where you can go and you can make more money. Wherever you have the opportunity to maximize your earning potential, that's where you should go before PT school. And so does that mean that you have to stay a tech for the rest of your life? No. If you've met the hour requirements that you need or your target goal, your observation hours have served their purpose. That job has served its purpose. And if you enjoy it, that's great. And if you feel like you're happy with the pay you're making, that's great. But I quit my job as a tech to go do a sales job. And I did it for a few months, and then I was back in school and I was a research assistant and I made more money there and I did all kinds of stuff, right? But the main thing is keep working, keep saving money, keep putting money away. Even if it doesn't seem like you're like, I can't save up $100,000. Who cares? Save up as much as you can. And then if you have my wife and I had money saved to pay for the first semester and a half of my 1 year as an out-of-state resident. And that saved us tens of thousands of dollars in student loan interest. I came out of PT school with $37,000 in student loans, and we knocked that out in a year and a half, right? So there's a way that you can do it so that way you set yourself up for success in the future with student loans. And just because that's how I did it doesn't mean that's how you all should do it. I had different life circumstances. My wife was working full time. We were able to qualify for in-state residency. There's a bunch of things that are different. But for your situation, you need to have a plan for how you're going to tackle your finances. And having more money is always going to put you in a better position to have mobility in your career so you're not stuck or crushed by your debt. Alex, let's see here. Would you recommend strength and conditioning, exercise performance internship if I wanted to get into athletic performance side of in the DPT scope? Or should I focus more on observation hours? So Alex, I would definitely recommend, if you know you want to go into a particular field, a particular aspect of the field, you absolutely should get observation hours in that setting to know if that's what you really want to do. So if you're looking to go to more of a performance sports aspect of PT, then you need to go find a performance sports PT to shadow and to be there with them and to be in the trenches with them. Most of them, I'm sure, would be more than happy to have you come on board. Alex, so if you go on the offer, if you click the sign me up button on the offer, it will take you to the coaching package. And there will be links sent out with the replay of the webinar for the next 48 hours. Well, every few hours, there'll be replay reminders sent out to you to watch it. And the link to get signed up will also be there. But you can click on the coaching offer, get signed up, and then go from there. Okay? Got another 30 seconds or so, and then I'll probably sign off. I took about 10 minutes of questions. There's just a few of you guys left. But good job, good questions. Thanks for being engaged today. And I look forward to working with many of you. I've gotten several emails already about people getting signed up. So looking forward to that. And that's my favorite part of this gig is getting to know you guys and to know your stories and how bright the future of physical therapy is with all these awesome faces that we have coming into the profession. I've been a PT for a little over 5 years now, which is weird to say, but it is great to see where the profession is going. There, like I said, there are challenges, but there's a lot of great opportunities coming down the pike. And I want to be someone who's on the side of helping PT to move forward instead of the naysayers who are saying, just isn't worth it, and bailing out of the profession. You're welcome, Alex. You're welcome. And thank you to all you guys. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. But again, the replay will be sent out a couple hours. And then looking forward to working with those of you who've already signed up. And if you're considering signing up, go ahead and do it. Like we said, you have that 14-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied for any reason. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome weekend and take care.